We're live. Welcome, jerks. As you know, no verdict today. First full day of jury deliberations for the Karen Reed retrial. A lot of people there today. Today, I think I'm watching the pictures, videos. I wasn't there. I was there yesterday, or not yesterday, Friday. Excuse me. The last, you know, day of jury deliberations. The first day. It was a big crowd on Friday. Today, it looked even bigger. Today, from all reports, it's biggest day. For the number of people outside, I'm expecting even more probably tomorrow. We'll see. It's got to be very warm. I hope people are prepared for the heat this week. We got attorney Mark Bederow here. Let's bring him up and see what he thinks about the jury deliberations, the latest about the charging documents. We're definitely going to talk about that. Any other questions you have? Attorney Bederow, Mark, how you doing tonight?
How are you?
Good. I'm a little bit anxious, but I know how this works. What do you think after one day? What are your comments for people losing their minds out there?
Not much. Been about what 6 or 7 hours total over the course of 2 days. That's not that unique. That's not that interesting. This was a trial that had about 30 days of evidence, many witnesses, kind of a complex, convoluted situation. There were three main counts, as you know, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. The second count is a word salad of just convoluted everything, like somebody threw up all over the verdict slip. So the fact that they haven't reached a verdict after essentially one full day of deliberations, I wouldn't read into that too much. I would relax, see where they are tomorrow, and like I said earlier, have a nice glass of Malbec. That's what I'm doing.
I'm not doing the coffee tonight. I had too much coffee today. I was like, I not doing the coffee. I just want to relax. I got the water. Stay
I have that.
hydrated. Yeah, there you go.
Hydration is always key with wine. So
There you go. Stay hydrated.
yeah, I wouldn't read too
I,
much into it. I really
yeah.
wouldn't. I mean, look, they're a jury. They're deliberating. The most interesting thing I would say that happened is there were no notes.
Yes.
They went from 9 to 4, 7 hours or thereabouts. I don't know if they took a break for lunch. I don't even know if they deliberate over lunch or not. But they had a clean day of deliberating without any notes, which tells me they're going back and forth. They're deliberating. It's not like they're confused over the evidence or the instructions, and that's a good thing. They're just fleshing it out. That's okay. That's what they're supposed to do.
Would you because they don't have a jury note, do you think that indicates maybe they're not at a deadlock already?
Oh, I
Is
don't
that
think
in
they're. I mean, again, it's really one day. They haven't suggested they're deadlocked. It's only been 6 or 7 hours. I mean, we don't obviously know what's going on in there, but there's no reason to believe that there's anything happening other than normal back and forth, spirited discussions. You don't know how they're breaking it down. You don't know how they're slotting up. You don't know whether they're trying to convince two or three people or whether they're just going witness by witness, evidence by evidence. You don't know. That's the beauty of jury deliberations. You don't know. Every jury can do it differently in every case, in every court, in every state in this whole country. You don't know what goes on in the jury room. And there's no reason to believe that because they didn't reach a verdict already, that there's trouble brewing. The people who thought it would be a verdict Friday, respectfully, that was very naive to think that in an hour, in a case like this, they would do that. And even if they're inclined to acquit, if they take their duty seriously, they're going to press the evidence. They're going to consider some of the weaker points or press it to the proof and make sure it's all normal. I mean, juries do what juries do, and 7 hours of deliberations is not a reason to say, why isn't this over? It's a long trial. Most trials, by the way, are what, a couple of days? Most felony trials, maybe a week. This trial is 2 months. This is a complete outlier. And again, I understand people don't understand how trials work generally, but 6 or 7 hours of deliberations over the course of a day and a half for a trial that long, it's not that unique. It really isn't. Not asking or sending a note is interesting because, notes are somewhat common and they didn't have any. I find that interesting. I don't even know what it means, but no verdict means nothing to me.
Scott, about the notes or the lack of note. Scott says, do they know that they can send a note if they have a question? I thought last time they did not know that.
If they don't know that, then it's worse than we thought. Obviously, by the way, in full candor, I did not watch the jury charge. So I did not watch the court's instructions to the jury. I took advantage of that time to do other things because it's so boring. But I can't fathom that the judge did not instruct the jury that in the event that there's a question for the court, that you, through the foreperson, communicate to the court, and we'll try to address that. In my experience, that's a regular thing. If they didn't tell the jury that makes no sense to me. That can't possibly, I hope that's not the case. But I didn't watch the instructions.
Yeah. And I know last time they did ask questions. I think he maybe, Scott maybe is confused about, like, because I remember I think the question last time was that the jury didn't know they could ask for readbacks on transcripts. So I think you may be confusing that, because I think they did ask a question last time. So I have to think that they knew that they could do that.
Yeah, they asked
maybe
for some evidence that they were told they couldn't have. Look, if the jury has questions, they should always communicate it to the court. They should never be told not to ask the question. The worst case scenario, the judge says, it's not proper for me to answer it, but they should never. They're determining the fate of someone's life and liberty. They ought to, if they have a question, ask the court.
Absolutely. We talked about the charging documents. This came up this morning. There was a motion, again, to change these charging documents, which we have them on the screen. This is it's actually 3 pages. I'm going to take this off off the screen, but I just want to remind people, we read the super chats at the end of the stream when Mark's on the show. So if you have any questions, comments, just leave them for free in the chat. You don't pay to ask a question. If you want to leave the show a donation, you can definitely leave a super chat for the end. But let me take this off, this banner right now. And this is the one of 3 pages. This is the busiest page of the charging documents that the Commonwealth has right now.
This looks like,
Mark, what do you want to say on this?
This looks like a bunch of word salad in 8 fonts, single spaced. It's so bad that the last sentence they couldn't even space out because they got to make sure it fits on one page. I've never seen a jury slip that looks like this in all the years that I've done it. Usually a jury slip is in about 14 or 16 font, triple spaced, because it's got a count and boxes for guilty or not guilty. And this thing is just a hot mess. I don't even know how you would understand any of this. If you read it carefully, if you have the patience to do so, it does say that if you're not guilty of anything 1 through 5, you check this box, and that if there's guilty of any particular charge, you check that box. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different boxes apparently to check off for guilty. But then the real question becomes, what if, and I know this was the topic of the day, what happens if the jury decides not guilty, not guilty, not guilty? But you can't check not guilty of any lesser included until you're done, right? So mentally they say not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. They go down 9, and then they get to 10, and now the jury can't decide over, in essence, what is a misdemeanor driving while intoxicated, or OUI as they call it in Massachusetts. And if they were to basically all agree that they're not guilty for the top 9, but they can't reach a verdict on the last one, looking at that document in front of you, what are they supposed to do? they can't check off guilty because we don't think she is. But they can't check off box 1, not guilty of the offense charged or any lesser included offense, because we can't reach a verdict on the last one. So what the hell are they supposed to do? And this is the scary part. This is after this exact issue was raised at the first trial and led to this going to months of unnecessary litigation, all the way up to the chief court in Massachusetts, the SJC, the Supreme Court even of the United States. They didn't hear it, but it went that far. It went to federal court. Nobody knew what to do. They wasted all that time, all those resources, all that valuable time, effort, and energy. And here we are back with the exact same thing. What are they supposed to do if they think she's not guilty of 1 through 4 and then can't reach a verdict on some of the counts of 5? What are they supposed to, you tell me, what are they supposed to check? The answer is there's no box. There's no guidance. Now, so a lot of people brought this up yesterday, and I wasn't very Twitter active yesterday, but when I was and I saw some of this, I said the answer is very simple. You just put a not guilty with each corresponding charge, and that's it. And if you want to check off 1 through 4, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, and then you get to 5 and you can't decide, the court will know. Now, then it was told to me today, and I haven't done the research because I don't have the time, effort, or energy to do this either, but it was told to me earlier that according to Andrea Burkhardt, who, of course, if she says it's the case, I believe it, because she's a brilliant appellate lawyer. Brilliant. Apparently, Massachusetts law, I'm not aware of this. I'm just going with what I heard. So all disclaimers apply, that you can't have a hung jury on a lesser included, meaning if they don't agree that the whole thing becomes hung. That is outrageous if it's true. I mean, that's just strikes me as so profoundly unjust, unfair, and violative of due process if the jury were to determine that she's not guilty of manslaughter, but we can't figure out whether she's guilty of a misdemeanor, DWI, OUI, that means, okay, so we'll do the whole thing over, and another jury could decide whether she's guilty of the homicide charge. If that's the case, if Andrea says it, I have to believe that's the state of the law, but that is so wrong, so ridiculous, so unconstitutional, so outrageous, and all the other words that you could think of if that's the case. And there's just no reason that this court can't at least instruct the jury with guidance how to do it. And the defense proposed a way to do it, which made perfect sense. If we all agree we want the right outcome, whatever that is, and you want the jury not to be fooled, you want them to be intelligent, why is this judge so afraid of doing it in a way that makes sense? And her answer is, well, that's not the way we do it. And, I tweeted this earlier. That's disturbing because you're talking about life, liberty, due process. And, that's the way we've always done it, is not a good look when you're talking about civil rights and due process. Okay. You ever heard of Plessy versus Ferguson from 1896? That was, separate but equal. And it took until 1954, Brown versus Board of Education, to overdo that. And for 58 years, the law of the land was, in terms of segregation, well, that's the way we do it. That doesn't make it right. And there are many other examples of that. And there's no harm, no foul in putting the jury slip in English. And this judge doesn't want to do it. And she doesn't want to do it because I don't have to. And I think I don't want to listen to you people. I don't like you.
On you, Mr. Jackson. That's not how we do things here.
I can't believe we're doing this for the second time in a year after what happened after the first trial. I mean, think about it. Think of all the pointless litigation, okay? Affidavits were filed in front of the judge. She issued an opinion. It was litigated in front of a single justice of the SJC, the full SJC, a U.S. district judge. Briefs were filed up and down the federal courts, all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. How much money, time, effort, and energy was wasted? And here we are doing the exact same thing. And there's just no recognition that, with all due respect, Your Honor, it's word salad. It doesn't make sense. There's no harm in what the defense is suggesting. It's okay to agree with the defense. Not going to hurt you. They're not asking for anything unjust. They're simply giving the jury guidance so we know what the verdict was or wasn't.
We also have here what, like I said, there's 3 pages each on what the defense submitted and what the Commonwealth is actually using for the charging documents. I'm just showing the one page that's the busiest. This is what the defense proposed, and it's funny how this looks so similar to what a retired federal agent posted on Twitter today from one of his cases that was a federal case. And the U.S. District Court of Rhode Island, he posted a charging document, and it looked very similar to this one. It had the boxes. It's just like what Mark was saying. This is what it should look like, right, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the retired federal agent, and certainly no disrespect to the District of Rhode Island Federal Court. This is how it should look in any normal court that wants a jury to know what they're doing and not be confused. And again, it can't be stated enough. In this very case, a year ago, you saw a jury confused over this kind of stuff. So this is not just some phantom concern. It happened. It actually happened. They said we meant to acquit for 2 counts, but we didn't know what the hell we were supposed to do. And you're right back into this. And you'll never find a jury slip in any court. Go ahead and look. That is as convoluted and busy as count 2 and the lesser included in this case. I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding when I say the font looks like it's single spaced in 8. Standard is 12 or 14, right? Look at, if you go back and put it up, look at that. That's just word salad on a page. That's a lot of effort you're asking jurors to do. Just tell them, go down the line. Guilty or not guilty on the top count. Make a choice. Go to the first lesser included. Guilty or not guilty. Obviously, if guilty, like the defense says, stop. That's how it works. Highest count, stop. Not guilty, go to the next one. So on and so on and so on. Why is that so offensive to this court? Why is that so offensive to the prosecution? It's all about justice, right?
Yeah, because they need to confuse the jury. That's the only way that they think they can win. That's it.
Very confusing, but also even beyond confusing, if the Massachusetts law is as we've been led to believe, are you telling me if they can't agree on a misdemeanor DWI, then all bets are off and she can be retried for manslaughter when the jury would have said we acquit on manslaughter? That cannot possibly be constitutional. There is no way that that is constitutional. That is an egregious violation of due process and double jeopardy.
Just don't understand how this isn't on every major media news network. The stuff we're seeing here just doesn't make any sense. They're acting like it's normal.
It's convoluted. It's in the weeds. It's boring. It's not sexy in terms of the coverage. But
that's true.
But the reality is, we all know that count 2 is the big one. And you know that from the last time, because they shouldn't even be trying her for counts 1 and 3 because she was acquitted. But because of this very issue, They are retrying her for those. This is, I mean, look, she's almost certainly going to get acquitted of 1 and 3 again. All right. And now you're stuck on 2, but she could very well be acquitted this time of the manslaughter. And because they can't agree on a misdemeanor bullshit OUI, the DA's office may have the right to retry her for homicide, manslaughter. You will absolutely see, if that happens, an entire another round of hearings and litigation and double jeopardy. And this would be the only case I can ever think of in my life where a defendant, after 2 trials, is making a double jeopardy argument twice. If you need to know how screwed up all this is, if they get a hung jury on count 2 because of they can't agree on a misdemeanor OUI, which, by the way, full candor, the defense asked for. They did ask for it. That's their choice.
Was a smart move? What do you think?
No. Not because of this issue. I don't think they have anywhere near proof of a car accident, and I would take the acquittal and get the hell out of here. I understand their thinking. I do. I mean, they're concerned about what happened the first time. In my view, probably paying too much attention to that as opposed to how the second trial was held. But I get it. If they think there's a way to give an off-ramp to the jury, to certain jurors, and, if that's what it takes to get out of these terrible charges, a misdemeanor, nothing, I get it. But I think it's not worth it. I don't think it's a right outcome. And wouldn't it be something if that cost them the mistrial over this nonsense? Which I don't think it will, but it could. I don't think it was coming from a position of strength. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you. But I don't know what their thinking is or their reasoning other than understandable concern for, I don't want the jury focused on compromising on a manslaughter rather than a DWI. Fine. She's drunk, but there's no evidence of a car accident. So let's just bang her for the misdemeanor. I get it. But imagine if a couple of people say, no, there's no evidence of that. And now you have trial number 3 over that nonsense.
What happens if Bev does the right thing on this and Karen is convicted of the OUI and she, basically lets the other charges go? And she, does sentencing. People are worried about that 2.5-year sentence for an OUI, which I've never seen in the state. No one ever gets 2.5 years unless someone gets killed or seriously hurt from an OUI. What type of sentence do you think she would give her if it was just an OUI and it went the way we wanted it to go in terms of the rest of the charges get dismissed?
My concern on sentencing, if there was a misdemeanor drunk driving conviction, is that you would see what often happens in federal sentencing, which is a terrible thing that used to happen more frequently than it does now. A lot of times in federal court, you would see a defendant convicted of much lesser charges, but at sentencing, the district judge would order a hearing called a Fatico hearing, and they would take fact finding about aggravating factors, and a judge in federal court would use uncharged or unconvicted evidence as a sentencing enhancer, even acquitted conduct. You could have a defendant, this used to be the case in federal court, would be acquitted, but the federal judge would take evidence and find, more likely than not that it happened and use that as a sentencing enhancement. And the concern is in this court with this judge, even if she gets acquitted of all the terrible crimes, do you think she's not factoring in John O'Keefe's death, Karen Reed's quote unquote behavior, the defense's quote unquote behavior, and all of those things? I'd love to tell you she wouldn't. There's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing in the law called a trial tax that lawyers are very familiar with. And Do I think this court would apply that trial tax? Yeah. In other words, if you had pled guilty to what you had done, I would have given you down here, but you went to trial, you lost, even on
It's
a
just money.
bullshit
Yeah.
misdemeanor OUI. Do I think she would get whacked with a little more? Yes. I wouldn't have asked for it. If anybody asked me what I thought, I would. I
You
mean,
wouldn't
to
have
me,
done it.
I want the jury thinking car accident or no. That's it. When you're talking about OUI, you don't need a car accident. Now, the OUI, I think, beyond a reasonable doubt, has problems of its own. You do have video, which is not great, of her drinking. You do have admissions of her drinking, but you also have a blood alcohol test, which is very unreliable under the circumstances. And you also have very compelling evidence of the people who actually observed her behavior saying she was fine, and the people who observed her driving saying she was fine as well. So this would be a very fascinating OUI trial. Why we're turning it into that, I don't understand. This is a car accident or not, and the defense has overwhelming, not proof, because they don't have to prove anything. The facts are on their side overwhelmingly on whether there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt whether Karen struck John O'Keefe. I don't like giving the jury an out into all this other stuff. I don't like it.
I kind of understood it. The more I'm thinking about it, though, just agree with
I
you.
understand it. Let me be clear. I totally understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
You can't say it's irrational or unreasonable. I get it. I just, for me, reasonably disagree. It's not an open and shut decision. That's a tough call. But I like the case they put on, even with the evidence, even with the witnesses they didn't call that I would have liked. I thought they made a compelling case for reasonable doubt. And you had a litmus test for the jury. There is either proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a car accident or not. And once the jury decides that, it's not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Now you throw this wrench into the process, and here you go. And God forbid they hang on that. They may very well have another shot on a manslaughter charge. To me, that was an unforced error. That's my view.
Obviously, they can do this, right? Tabitha Ray says, question, can they send a note if they're confused about the form?
They damn well should. They're not really instructed about that, but if they don't know what they're doing, one certainly hopes that the jury would communicate to the court, we don't understand what's going on here. And it would be a tragedy if they don't. And it's going to need, again, if she's convicted or hung on some of those counts or some of those lesser counts, it will lead to more needless litigation. So I normally I'd laugh and say, if you're listening, they're not listening. They're not supposed to be listening, obviously. But you better hope that this jury is smart enough and comfortable enough in their own skin, if they don't understand what's going on, to say, we need to ask the court. They damn well better do that, or else you potentially have a fiasco like you had at the end of the first trial.
Jurors are proactive. I hope.
Hope
It
so.
doesn't give me much confidence that the foreman was the guy who didn't take any notes.
You know, I haven't been there at all, so I literally have seen nobody or nothing. So I have no opinion or view of the jury. I do know that on Friday, I was on a very fascinating stream with Melanie Little and the Matas, you know, the Defense Diaries, and Ian Runkle, and a very, very sharp Massachusetts lawyer who tried that case. I forget which case it was, and I forget his name at the moment, which I feel terrible because he's really solid, really sharp guy. And, you know, a question was asked about Massachusetts procedure, so naturally everyone deferred to him. about picking the foreperson, and he said he had never seen it done in his 30 years in the way it had been done in this case, and that was really disturbing.
I guess his name was Tom, in the case of the Brian Camp case. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes. And he said picking the foreperson before even dealing with the alternates was something that he had never seen in his life, which guarantees obviously that person is on the jury and becomes immune from the alternate procedure, right? As opposed to picking 12 and then saying, now I'll pick a foreperson. Now, again, I know nothing about the person who was picked as the foreperson, but when a lawyer has been doing this for 30 years in Massachusetts tells me, I've never seen anything like this, that's bothersome.
Different. I just, in Mass, they just make up their rules depending on what courtroom it's.
I don't know. I'm not even saying that. I'm simply reporting what on this,
I know.
all-star lawyer stream, what was said. And all of us were shocked because none of us are Massachusetts lawyers,
Yes. Yeah.
We all wanted to hear what the guy who knows the culture,
the local,
and the procedure said. And he said, I've never seen anything like it. And that bothered all of us.
I'm thinking I need to talk to some more Massachusetts lawyers and see what they think about that. Because that always struck me as weird, to choose the foreman first before the alternates. It's like, why not? Why not just do the alternates first? That would make it.
Again, and I told you this, I've never, until I met all of you in the last year, would ever have said that New York is like the model of how things should be done. And believe me, it's not. But compared to Massachusetts, it really is. And it's really simple. You pick a jury, and the first juror number one, guess what, buddy? You're the foreperson. There's no issues. And then you pick your 12, and then you pick alternates. And when you pick the alternates, they know you guys are alternates. Not at the end of the trial. They know in the beginning of the trial, you're alternates. It's transparent. There's no issues. Everything here is like cloak and dagger and done in the dark. Nobody knows what's going on. Motions for transparency, whatever the hell that is, have to be filed. Who's ever heard of this? Just do it openly.
As we predicted, the whole fiasco of picking the alternate jurors was not transparent again. And as soon as they did it, all the videos came out, all the who said what whispers and this and all the conspiracies are out there that this guy, this clerk Jim is fixing it. And I can't say if he is or he isn't because they won't be transparent. It's just like it's like self-inflicted. It's like they keep punching themselves in the face over and over again. And then they point at us, the YouTubers, and say, it's your fault. It's your fault for noticing that we keep punching ourselves in the face over and over again.
I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything. I will tell you, again, this means nothing, but in the limited interactions that I've had with that clerk have been fine. I'm not accusing him of doing anything. I know a lot of people were comparing it to the other case recently in Massachusetts where the clerk held up the balls and showed them around. I can tell you, I know her. Her name's Margaret because she's the regular clerk in Aiden's cases. So I just know who she is. I can tell you she's a wonderful person and a complete professional and just nice person. Why it was done differently, where they're holding the balls out as opposed to here, I don't know. But it's just another unforced error in a lack of transparency. Why wouldn't you want the public to be confident in what's happening? I mean, I think all can agree, whether you hate Karen Reed, support her, are neutral, whatever, can't we all agree that you get a fair jury, picked fairly, transparently, they do whatever they do, and you live with it, whatever the result is? Can't we all agree? And with like a jury slip that makes sense, so there's no confusion. Does anybody disagree that that's the best way to do it? That makes no sense. Why can't we just do this in a way where everybody understands and is confident in the process, and then the chips fall where they do?
Resistance to us, the resistance to the transparency makes everyone very suspicious. I mean, that's it. It fuels it.
Just be transparent. And as Saul Goodman said, let justice be done, though the heavens may fall, right? Just let it, whatever it is, just do it the right way. And whatever side of this you're on, if it's done fairly, transparently, and properly, that's the way the system works. But when people have doubts and concerns and there's possible confusion, it's not good. There's no need for it. And it just feels like they're not putting their best foot forward to make sure that there's no confusion with the jury. It doesn't matter what, the Twitter clowns think. It's what the jury thinks, most importantly. And if they're confused, or we're concerned that they're confused, how is that a good thing?
Said no need for it. It just brought me back to my grandfather, who's no longer here. But we had this thing in our family where he would always say, "There's no need of it. There's no need of it." It was like one of his trademark sayings. This is funny.
Well,
no need of it. Let's this couple things here. This is a good one, Liz M. Because I'm wondering, like, let's say this jury does come back and they say they're hung. What do you think the defense should be doing at that point about the polling of the jury?
So
polling a jury different than last time?
Polling a jury means nothing. Okay, I don't think I've ever been involved in a single trial case in 26 or 27 years where the losing side has not requested that the jury be polled. So the idea that this is some big thing, in my experience, means nothing. And polling the jury just means, suppose they say not guilty. Now, actually, let me refresh that. I don't think I've ever heard a prosecutor poll a jury. That's not true. In this hypothetical, let's assume they say not guilty. Say one, say you all that. Not if the prosecution were to poll the jury, then you would have a situation where Brennan would be humiliating himself, having the clerk say, juror number one, is your verdict not guilty on count one, count two, count three, yes. All the way down the line to hear 12, yes. The idea that someone's going to say no, not likely, right? Defendants, I've heard, poll the jury because it's a Hail Mary, 1 in a million. But at any time have I ever heard somebody say, well, wait a minute. No, they got it wrong. So you can poll the jury in every case, but that's not going to give you a remedy. That's just a Hail Mary, desperate attempt to get a juror to say, actually, that's bullshit, which never happens.
We were talking about earlier where it's basically a hung jury on the major counts, or even not guilty. Let's say not guilty on the major counts. That's more likely. And it's a hung jury on that lesser OUI.
Well, that's worth polling.
They ask them to poll then because I think Debs is just going to be like, oh, it's a hung jury. Goodbye. We're going to retry the whole thing. Should the defense at that point say, hey, we want to hear every individual count?
Yes, they should. But, I mean, again, I've never heard a situation where a jury publishes a verdict and then the clerk polls the jury and something screws it up. Now, if that does, that creates havoc and hell, and you have to deal with that. But I've never seen any situation where polling the jury actually bears any fruit. That's all I'm saying. I mean, that is a desperate thing. It doesn't do anything.
It's useless because things are so screwed up, probably.
It's a Hail Mary. I mean, yeah. And who knows? And by the way, if it's ever going to happen, I believe with you, it would be this case, because there are so many things that are so all kinds of screwed up with what we're dealing with here. That if ever there was going to be a polling of a jury that screwed things up, yeah, it would be this case for sure.
another thing that we've never seen before.
It's
Oh
one of
man,
one. This is one of
we say
one.
that all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, let's put this one up. This is a long one. A Soren Fish says, Mark, if they are not guilty on all the serious charges on Form 2, but hang on OUI, what happens? We've been talking about this. Is there any way to prevent the Commonwealth from retrying on those felonies? Seamerg, we have a lot of questions on this. I think you kind of did answer it,
So,
but people are asking, like, would they sue again? Like, what would the process? What would that be like?
so if the jury was able, first of all, the first step is, are they able to communicate this based upon the convoluted jury slip? If they were able to communicate that we hang on count 2, 1 through 4, and we're hung on count 5, even though the slip doesn't account for this, right? But assuming they're able to communicate that outcome to the judge, and if the judge were to now take a partial verdict, I find her not guilty of murder and not guilty of count 3. Now we're stuck on count 2. Again, with all respect to Andrea, because if she said it, I believe it. I haven't looked this up myself, but nobody is smarter, legally speaking, than Andrea Burkhart. Okay. And if Massachusetts law requires, unconstitutional or not, that if you hang on a lesser and the judge declares a mistrial, the whole larger count is in play, then you are potentially looking at a third trial on count 2. I can't fathom that that's constitutional. I can't fathom that if that were to happen, that the defense would not start a whole nother round of litigation challenging that, a whole nother round of double jeopardy. And you would say, only in the Karen Reed case do you have to plead double jeopardy on counts 1 and 3 the first time and counts 2 the second time. That's how fucked up this case is, apparently, if that result were to happen. Pardon my French, sorry.
If the jury decides tomorrow that she's not guilty in count 1, can they announce that to the court first and then go back to deliberate on 2 and 3?
If you do a partial verdict, that's what happens. I mean, this happened in Harvey Weinstein in Manhattan last week. If the jury says we have a verdict on count 1, we cannot reach a verdict on count 2 or 3, we're stuck. The court could take the verdict on count 1. Now, in that situation, the jury's kind of telling on itself. That means not guilty on count 1, because if she's guilty on count 1, there's no need for the rest. But the court could take an acquittal on count 1 and say, go back and work on 2 and 3. Yes, you can absolutely take a partial verdict, and the court should, and send them back on the other counts until they say we can't go any farther.
So, no, is the jury expected to know the legal definition of manslaughter and homicide? Is that explained to them?
I don't know, but homicide is not a thing. Homicide is a legal term of art. It's not a crime. There's no crime of homicide. Homicide is a legal definition that is simply somebody who is killed as the result of the conduct of another person. It doesn't even have to be a crime. You could have justifiable homicide. Self-defense is a perfect example. You could kill someone because they pulled a gun on you and then you shot them first, or shot them before they could shoot you. That's a homicide. You killed them, but that may very well be a legal act. That may be a justifiable homicide and not a crime. Manslaughter is a crime. Homicide, again, is just a term of art. It's a legal, it's like a forensic term. Doesn't it? I mean, you hear homicide, but murder is homicide. Manslaughter is homicide. Criminally negligent homicide is homicide. But not all homicide is criminal, if that makes sense. It's
He's a
homicide,
jerk.
not homicide. Homicide.
Remember that show, Homicide?
Yeah, a
That was
great
like
show.
before The Wire. Yeah.
Yeah, the Baltimore too, though. Same
I
town.
loved yeah, that's what
Andre
it's
Braugher.
remember Frank? I liked Frank in that.
That was Andre Braugher and
Yeah, he's great.
Richard. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Which one? There was a bunch. There was so many good
Richard,
actors
the
in that one.
kind of older white
Oh
guy.
yeah, yeah. The guy
Richard
Belzer,
Belzer.
Richie Belzer.
Homicide was a great show,
It was.
and they'd
There was
say
another movie too that's like similar. Like I don't know if you remember this, the Spike Lee one. It was supposed to be Martin Scorsese movie. Then he took it over. Clockers. You remember that one?
it's a great movie. I remember that
Yeah.
movie.
That was good. Yeah, I remember that too. That was like a VHS tape back then. Remember that? VHS tapes?
Yeah, no, Homicide was a great show, and it was actually in Baltimore before The Wire. And they would always talk about like we got to get him in the box. That was the interview.
Right.
The box.
Right.
And Andre Braugher, he was incredible actor.
Good.
Yeah.
He was really good. We'll just go with this one. Just for a second. Please don't freak out when we talk about sports. I want to hear Mark's real thoughts on the Devers trade. They want to know what you think about the Red Sox getting rid of their star player.
Absolutely, positively fucking disgusted.
You're not happy about it? Some people thought he deserved it because
that's something. You know what? He was not a team guy. He was an overpaid designated hitter, great hitter though. Didn't want to play the field after they told him. I get all that. But here's a thought. I don't know. Maybe exploit him for what you can get for another month or two. He hits well. Trade deadline comes. People approach you. Bidding war. Get what you can instead of a bunch of nobodies and just give them away for nothing. And also the timing of it made me want to throw up. You just swept the Yankees, who, by the way, the Yankees scored. This is a great stat. Ready for this? In a 3-game series that the Red Sox swept them, the Yankees scored 4 runs. That has not happened to the New York Yankees in over 103 years. Have they scored this few runs in a 3-game series? You won 5 out of 6. And here's how gutless the ownership of the Red Sox is. They have a 10-game West Coast road trip. Now, most of those games are going to start at 10 p.m. and 10:30. A lot of people can't watch because you're not staying up till 1:30. So the attention is less. They're not at home. There's no home crowd. It's a gutless timed move. And they took this euphoria of the team doing great. They're finally winning. They've been great for like 2 weeks. Everyone's feeling good. And you just suck the life out of the fan base and give them away for nothing. And if you do it a month from now, you could have had a bidding war. How many teams contending at the trade deadline would say, we can get Rafael Devers? This team has to get rid of him. Yeah. They didn't even have any suitors. They just, and I get it. He was probably a cancer on the team. They have 3 or 4 young studs in the lineup. They don't want to be influenced by somebody like Devers. But you know what? Suck it up for a month. Get the hits, get the home runs, get the wins, and get them out of there at the right moment. I just think the ownership sucks. The general manager sucks. And they could not have handled it worse. That's all. That's what I think.
Quite a few over the years, Globe writers, and none of them were Boston Globe News is a newspaper that is also owned by the owner of the Red Sox now. And I've never heard any of them say good words about John Henry. Let's put it that way. They're not happy. They're not happy over the newspaper writers.
John Henry is like the most insane winner of all time. Okay. He used to own the Florida Marlins. And you've seen this. It's the exact same business model. He won a World Series in Florida. And then what did he do after he won the World Series? Fire sale. Bottom line, get them all out of there. Then he happens to be the owner of the Red Sox. He hires Theo Epstein, who is probably the most important figure, bar none, of anyone in Red Sox history, at least this generation. His whole general managership was incredible. They win, and even after Theo Epstein, they win 4 World Series after never winning. But look at them since then. The John Henry model is in full play. Mookie Betts, got to go. Xander Bogaerts, got to go. Rafael Devers, who they've got signed for 8 more years, got to go. He's trimming the bottom line. Sell the team.
Sell the team, yep.
Get lost. You won your 4 World Series. You can't take that away. You have absolutely destroyed my baseball team. You need to go. I hate you. Leave now, please. And you know what? I'm still going to sit here and I'm still going to sit here.
Sox jersey on, yeah. There you go.
Because they know that's how we are. They know that
people still want to go to Fenway. It's a museum. They're still going to go. Even they need a bigger stadium too, though. The virtual juror says, preface, I'm firmly in the not guilty camp. However, if she is convicted of something, what do you view as the largest appellate issues with this case? Easter rulings, dog DNA, hoodie. There's so many. I mean, that's the biggest problem if she were ever to be found guilty. Is there which appeal do you do? There's like probably 100 of them.
Well, there's a lot. And a lot of them are not even trial. Again, you can appeal pre-trial. I think the not granting a hearing on the motion to dismiss was a terrible ruling. I think Easter, as it turned out, was a poor ruling. The dog DNA, which came in, is a problem. I think her weak instruction on the hoodie, absolutely. Some other people have suggested I'm involved in that issue. I leave that for others to decide. I'm not going to get into that.
Did you deny it? Didn't you? Or am I getting confused? I thought you denied that on the show.
No. I'm saying other people have, discussed whether, her summary denial of my involvement was an issue. I'm just not going to. I have a thought about that. But
I see what you're saying. Yes, I was confused. Yeah. You haven't commented on that. Yeah, some people have suggested that's another reason.
Yeah,
that honestly, I feel like that was very damaging to Karen Reed to not let you in. That would have.
So do I.
I felt like it would have made a big difference, actually. So
I damn well thought I would have, but people lie and judges make decisions, in my view, without a full appreciation of the proper standard. But again, is that an appellate issue? That's for others to decide. But there's a lot of appellate issues, but don't think that, it's not, I don't think it's going to come to that.
Let's hope not.
I don't think you're getting a conviction, and people should not think because, again, you're on 6 or 7 hours of deliberation that everything went sideways. There's no way.
No, I think the worst thing, the way I look at it right now, like, I'm not that nervous. I know people are nervous. I'm a little agitated because I want to see not guilty on every count and have it be over. But I always feel like right now, like the worst case, if this goes sideways is hung jury, which is another win for Karen Reed in a lot of respects. I mean, do you agree with that? If they get a hung jury, that's a win for Karen Reed's defense, isn't it?
Yes, in a legal sense, but that's, the famous thing. It's like kissing your sister, right? Yes. They're trying to put Karen Reed in prison for the rest of her life. Okay. If there's a hung jury and she walks out of there, that's a win. Yes. It doesn't feel like a win, but it's a win. Don't assume there will be a third trial. I'm not saying don't assume there won't be either, but so much could happen if there were a hung jury before the next time. Is Michael Morrissey still going to be here? Is the public going to tolerate this? How many millions of dollars does the public have? Do they have the stomach for more Hank Brennan? I don't know. Do they have the stomach for him having a blank check to hire experts like Aperture? I don't know. The public just may not want it even beyond the dollars. Just the community needs to heal.
What about the town even of Dedham? I know Canton is, wants to move on, but the town of Dedham too. I mean, that downtown area is mobbed right now.
Also, you don't know what the breakdown is. I mean, suppose it's a hung jury, 11-1 to acquit. Do you know how much public pressure would be on Michael Morrissey to say, "Are you kidding me right now? You're going to retry her? She got acquitted on 2 or 3 counts the first time. Yeah, you by all accounts, you got a 9-3 to convict the first time on count 2. But if that sways to 11-1, 10-2, 9-3 the other way, is he even still going to be in office? What do you do with these witnesses? Are they going to show up? I mean, do you think the Aperture people should be hired again? I don't think anyone with a straight face would say those guys deserve to be hired again. Where do you go from here?
Who's going to be your witnesses? Back to
Where
Trooper
do you go from here?
Mr. Bederow, what if a juror says in deliberations that they know the other entity was the FBI, like from the news? Could it cause a mistrial because they infected the whole jury?
I mean, I don't know, but I don't think that's something that would come to the attention of the court. But given the way the court handled it, isn't the court inviting the jury to speculate? Wouldn't it have been better to just rip the Band-Aid off and just say it was the FBI and give an instruction? This is another error by the court. I'm not saying a legal error that will lead to a mistrial, but why play games? You heard witnesses say FBI. You heard references to agency. You heard references to entity. Why are we playing this game of what are we talking about? Why not just say they were hired by the Justice Department? It is what it is. Same thing. They asked the ARCA or Rentschler anyway, not both witnesses, were you trying to, do what your employer said? That opened the door. What do you mean my employer? The FBI, Justice Department, not FBI, hired us. That makes them the client. You even have the relationship wrong here. You're misleading. Should the jury know that it was the Justice Department? They should. Should they know that it was the FBI who spoke to Jen McCabe? Of course they should. Should they know that whole Kelly Dever fiasco was the FBI? Of course they should. I mean, the court is playing games here. The whole purpose in not telling them is to prevent the jury from speculating, when in fact all the court is doing is inviting the jury to speculate.
Just like the whole thing about the lack of transparency, it invites speculation.
Yes.
I don't really try to air that stuff, the speculation, like especially about the court clerk. Like, I haven't gone after Jim, like you said earlier. I feel the same way. I don't want to go after this guy.
Do you think for a minute the jury, let's assume they're deliberating about the ARCA guys, and again, we don't know because we're not in there, so we're speculating. But let's assume the jury is deliberating and saying, well, are these, the prosecution says they're biased. And jurors say, well, but they were hired by a third party. Yeah, they were hired by an agency. They were hired by an entity. Oh, but it was their employer. Do you not think the jury is sitting in there saying, what are we talking about here? What do we think? It's got to be the feds, right? Right? Well, I don't know. You don't know that. But yeah, but it makes sense. But you don't know. Why are we encouraging that kind of argument?
Exactly. Because they could speculate correctly or they could speculate incorrectly. Either way, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Decorated dudes looking for nudes. Mike C says, if a third trial would it be moved? If there's a third trial, could it be moved to a different judge? And then could you work for the defense this time? Especially if Turtle Boy's cases are over. You think that could ever happen?
If there is a third trial, I mean, I think I've said this to you before, I would move to get in front of a different judge. I think that they have established an appearance of bias. And if asked to join the team, of course I would. And if somebody wanted to kick me off again, that's on them. So, this is a hypothetical, but if asked, absolutely. And if a judge was going to be forced to say no, then that's on them. And, you know, I have a lot to offer. There's no conflict. There are, you know, potential conflicts which were addressed. And that was done. And the judge had no interest in hearing about any of that and made a decision. And she was wrong. And that's a fact. And she did what she did, and she was wrong. And that's that. But I live with that. She's the judge. I'm not. So I do what a judge says. That's the way lawyers are. But if they wanted to do that again, I would welcome that again. Sure. Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
You know,
I don't think it will. I don't think it will, but you know, that's a conversation for down the line, but I don't think that's even going to come to realization.
Fed Up with Bev says a not guilty wouldn't apply, but like last time, what would you call it then? What would you ask to prevent that error?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah. I think he's talking about the lessers again, like in terms of, you know, if you can't agree on like the OUI, you know?
Well, I mean, again, if they can't agree on the OUI, the way it's being explained to us from Andrea, who she knows more than anybody, believe me, then you're back at a potential manslaughter trial, assuming the DA wants to proceed and assuming the defense doesn't file successful motions on double jeopardy and all that. But you could be looking at a third trial, even if they, in essence, acquit her of manslaughter, but the jury slip doesn't account for it. That's the problem.
Question about the last jury. Apparently, in the last trial, the foreman allegedly refused to send a question to the judge from the jury. And Mary's asking about that. She's saying, does this jury know they are all equal? Are they equal? Can any juror send a note to the judge, or does it have to be the foreman, right?
I mean, look, I saw the interview of Ronnie the juror, like we all did. I believe he was being earnest and speaking the truth. And, you know, there's no reason not to doubt what he was saying in terms of what happened. Having said that, what he was saying happened scares the living hell out of me and is really depressing, because my recollection is him describing a situation where multiple jurors were asking the foreperson to speak to the court about a question and the foreperson refusing. And let's be real clear. Shame on you, foreperson. That is not your role. The foreperson on a jury has absolutely no superior power to any other jury. The whole purpose of a foreperson on a jury, no more, no less, is to be the vessel of communication between the jury and the court. You write the notes, you submit the notes, you speak. You have no extra deliberative power. You have no authority. You know, you start the discussion. That's it. You have no extra credibility because a judge said eeny, meeny, miny, mo, foreperson. Okay. And what Ronnie the juror was telling us was that they were asking him to do something and he wouldn't do it. That is outrageous. And that, more than anything else in his interview, made me, and I'm sure any other lawyer who watched it, just throw up, because that is so egregiously improper. Okay. Even if you don't agree as the foreperson, if there's a deliberating juror who says, we've got to have this question answered, your job as the foreperson is to say, okay, I don't agree with it, but a juror wants to know. You've got to do that. That's not the way he described it, and that's real disturbing. Is that going to happen this time? I don't know. I hope not. Shouldn't have happened the first time, I can tell you that.
I hope not too. Someone's asking where is that interview with Ronnie? That's Turtle Boy Daily News, or just look up on YouTube Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy definitely has the interview with Ronnie that we're all talking about.
Interviewed two jurors that have.
Recently. What did you
Yeah,
think about the latest one?
I didn't see it. I heard about it. I didn't see it. I was only commenting that for the people who criticize his journalism, it is fascinating that two jurors saw fit to speak to him to explain their thoughts. That's just interesting to me.
I mean, if they want to reach a larger audience, have a full conversation, I think it's a perfect place to go, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm saying that people who, whatever you think of him and his tactics, he's not a journalist. He seems to get a hell of a lot of fascinating interviews,
Scoops.
scoops for
Yeah.
somebody not.
Interviews and scoops. He breaks a lot of news.
Mhm.
I think it's funny because before all this Karen Reed stuff, there was him breaking news like Troopergate, for instance, and a lot of the media would ignore it, and then they would actually finally run a story 6 months later, and they would never mention him. So, you know, like he was their competition, and they don't want to admit that they're getting scooped by this guy, this random guy from Worcester, right? I mean, they're like the Boston Globe's getting.
Hey, listen,
I had like a series of stories like that. They finally actually did credit me, which was amazing to see. The Boston Globe was like Mike Crawford, Young Jerks. I was like, editorial page, holy shit! Like they don't even do that for Turtle Boy ever, like
um,
because they never do that to him. They, now they call him. Now they always put him in. What do they call him? The controversial blogger.
well, you saw it today. I mean, the New York Post on Twitter said that he was involved. And by the way, the New York Post. I mean, I've been quoted in the New York Post probably 1,000 times. I know every reporter who covers criminal justice in the New York Post. I like them. Yeah, I don't know who authorized this thing, but they put up a tweet today that said that he was involved in an altercation, and then they post a video, and it's Baghdad Bob yelling at him, doing nothing, and it's just insanity. And you see Baghdad Bob, who a couple days ago was filleting himself, calling himself the most honest, fair-minded, straight
Yeah,
down
non-biased.
journalist there. But there he is on the New York Post Twitter page today, screaming and yelling about how drunk she was and she hit him and this
You're
and I
getting
mean,
sued. You're
just
getting
this
sued. Yeah.
this guy just clowning himself. But the lead of the tweet was Turtle Boy, or controversial blogger, or whatever it said, involved in altercation. He wasn't involved in an altercation. He was being yelled at by Baghdad Bob.
But they really missed in that story. And that you watch that video,
I did
I
watch the
just
video.
yeah, discerning eye tells you a lot. Because what you notice too is that is within the buffer zone. Number one. Number two, he's doing a level of protest there, and I believe witness. I don't know if Aiden's still considered a witness, but he was officially on the witness list at one point for the Karen Reed trial. So it almost looks like witness intimidation to me. Maybe it's not. Whatever. Buffer zone infraction, huh? All the people sitting there watching are Aiden supporters, Turtle Boy supporters. They're all quiet. They're not saying a word. You can tell they want to say something, but they don't because they've been silenced by the buffer zone restrictions, the free speech restrictions. But the other side, Bad Bob, got no restriction. He can say whatever he wants.
As I watched it, the takeaway I had was I felt sorry for Court TV. They platform people like him and Wendy Murphy and Coffindaffer and all of them, and try to put that off as a credible court reporting entity. And these are the people who became famous way back when, from like OJ Simpson in the 90s and all of that. And Court TV used to be the gold standard of like legal reporting. And at this point, they've just become a joke. And this is the kind of person that they're platforming. And it's embarrassing.
So whatever. exactly what he is. People's like, who's Baghdad Bob?
Who's
I'm glad they
Baghdad
don't
Bob?
know. Some people don't know his name. They just know Baghdad Bob now.
This is the
Yeah, he
guy who
just
said,
go ahead.
I'm watching the court and yeah, Karen Reed is yelling at her lawyers and sources tell me there's like big dispute amongst the team and all this other nonsense. I mean, you could go on and on with his nonsense. And to what end? I mean, he's just a joke. How does anybody take him seriously? Anybody. On
The
top of the
TV
fact that
does.
checkered past.
Yeah, he does have a checkered past. The biggest thing I think is funny as hell is that his wife got busted doing radio arbitron
Yeah, carrying
trading
his water.
fraud. Yeah,
Carrying his water.
and
Lovely.
then he blamed it on his wife. Like he didn't take. He was behind that. Come on.
Most husbands would either acknowledge that or even if they didn't do it, take the heat. But he let it go. Draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, his poor. I felt my conclusion is I say his poor wife. Is he still? Is it the same wife? I don't
I
know.
know nothing about him or his personal life or
I
anything.
don't either.
I never heard of him before this trial. I've seen his behavior in this trial. He's just a Mickey Mouse cartoon and a clown, and he's not a serious journalist. And if him and Julie Grant want to have their morning jam sessions about these kinds of things, I just think the sad news is that what they're doing to Court TV, which used to be a great institution years ago, they did a great service, but today they're just a joke.
Because I don't think Vinny's bad.
I think
Like I
he's
think
fine.
he's actually pretty good. It's like, does
Very
he
good.
need better producers? Is that what it? I think that's what it is. Like his
I don't know.
producers suck.
I
They're
don't.
not good at their job. That's what I feel like.
I think he's very good. I've been invited on the show a few times. I haven't gone on for a lot of reasons, but I think he's fine. I think he's. I don't think he's somebody saying he's a sellout. I don't think he's a sellout. I think he's fair. I'm not. I think he's fine. I just the entity that he works for is a joke.
Absolutely.
I like Vinny.
Um, yeah, I do too. I mean, I've given him some shit in the past for some of the stuff he said, but all in all, I think he's like you said. I think he's fair. I think he tries, but like my biggest beef has been what you were just talking about. His guests. It's like, why are you airing these people
And
over
Petro
and over and over again?
and he has the idiot in the attic on and these other
Yeah.
people. And I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously when those are the level of people you have on. If you have he's had some lawyers on, some credible lawyers. That's good.
Yep.
I
I like
applaud
Peter
that.
Ellikin. Yep.
No, everyone likes him. But even some of the
Yeah.
lawyers who may have a different view than you, that's fine.
Yeah,
Doesn't
even
affect.
Joe Krosky. I don't like his views, but he's fine. He's a lawyer. Like he's
He
good.
doesn't bother me in the least bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand he was Colin Albert's attorney. That's fine,
Exactly.
but he's an intelligent, well-established, credible lawyer. We may see things differently, but that doesn't offend me in the least. There's another lawyer he has on. I don't know his name. Used to work in the Norfolk DA's office. That doesn't offend me in the least. But when you start coming at me with DePietro and the guy in the attic and the other shows with Wendy Murphy and Coffin Daffer, I mean, at that point, I don't think you're a serious news organization. You're just not being credible.
It's like Mad Magazine, but nobody's in on the joke. You know what I mean? Like at least Mad Magazine, you're reading it, it was a joke, and the people creating it knew it was a joke. It's like Heather says, "Do you think the feds are still investigating?" What do you think, Mark? Is there any chance of that? I have no idea.
I couldn't guess or know. I don't know. I don't know. I really have no clue.
Yeah. There's a question that keeps coming up. A point. I just want to make a correction on this too. Carol Ann says, "Mike, please ask Mark what he thinks about no court on Thursday and Friday." I saw Jessica Machado had posted that, but I saw that Sue O'Connell made a tweet correcting it. It seems like, and she said that there is no court on Thursday because of Juneteenth, that holiday, but there will be court on Friday. So it's just one day
June
apparently.
Juneteenth has become a federal holiday, and anytime there's a federal holiday, you can be damn sure that any bureaucratic court system ain't working. That's
That's
got
true.
nothing to do with Norfolk County, Massachusetts. That is everywhere in this country. So June 19th, absolutely, there'll be no court. And as you said, presumably they will be working on the 20th. So that has nothing to do with this case, nothing to do with the jury, nothing to do with the judge. Juneteenth is a holiday. They're not working, full stop. Nothing to do with any corruption or anything like that.
Talk about the schedule because I'm wondering how that might play into the verdict and how the jurors maybe feel
I
about things. Because if they have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they have Thursday off, and then they're supposed to come back on Friday. I have a feeling that most of them would rather have Friday off and have like a 5-day weekend and then go back to whatever job they're working on Monday. Do you think that we can read a lot into if they have to come back on Friday?
Yeah, I think they don't want to. They have a full day tomorrow, Tuesday, right? Full
Yep.
day Wednesday, full awareness. We don't have to come Thursday. Is there an incentive to get a verdict in the next 2 days? Absolutely. Um, could the first note come tomorrow late in the day if they don't have a verdict about we can't agree? It could. I think there's a lot of incentive to get the hell out of there by the end of Wednesday. My own gut tells me it'll probably be tomorrow, but again, we don't know. That's just, guessing. Um, it would be remarkable if they're able to hang on through Wednesday, knowing there's no court Thursday, come back Friday, and to your point, giving up a 5-day weekend. Because if you finish up Wednesday, you get Thursday, Friday, all the way, and then you're done. It's summer. I would expect this to be over by Wednesday unless something really strange is going on.
I'm guessing I should probably try to get down to court tomorrow afternoon if I want to be there when it happens.
I would
Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah.
I would think if you want to go down there and you think you want to be there for a verdict, I would go tomorrow.
Yeah. I think I may have to. I just knew today. I was like, it's not happening today. And I was already like, if I get in the car now, I'm gonna get there right at 4 o'clock. And then Bev's gonna say, we're going home. But it was actually 4:20. She said we're going
Well,
home. I could have stood there for 20 minutes, but
people also need to understand. I mean, there was a really regrettable tweet today about, there's a verdict because
who did that? I saw that starting to sweep across like even the chats, and I was wondering where that's coming from.
I don't know. I just saw something online about, oh my God, somebody said there's a verdict. Just because the parties get ordered back doesn't mean there's a verdict. They get ordered back to be dismissed. If there's a note, anything, they have to come back. And just because they get back for somebody to say there's a verdict, that's regrettable. People read that stuff and, it goes down the line. People think it. No, 4 o'clock, it makes sense that they would say we're done for the day. And in this court, they generally shut down at 4 o'clock. So I don't understand why people would do that. Everybody wants to be first and all that. I get it, but shouldn't do that.
Rosemary Moon says it was Papa Sean. His dream was called Verdict is In. Oh no, Sean. Oh,
Well,
God.
Whatever. Whoever it is, I didn't know that. It doesn't
I
matter.
didn't know either. Come
But
on, Sean.
Point is, unless there's like real info or somebody says, first of all, how would you know that?
No.
Okay, just because they say the parties are being ordered back, again, dismissed for the day. There's a note. The note can be any number of things. It can be a question about the law, a request for evidence, or yes, it could be a verdict. I don't know how anyone on Twitter would know what that note is. There's so much weirdness
What
surrounding.
about this one? Tara Ellis says, Mark, I got nosy and checked in on the Mass State Bar. Your nemesis, Wendy Murphy, hasn't been licensed in Mass in like 20 years. Is that true?
First of all,
Yeah,
she's not my nemesis. I just think she's
yeah.
an idiot who has a law degree and engages in shameful conduct and outlandish and ridiculous statements. She's not my nemesis.
And she's not on the same level as you at all.
Absolutely not.
But
Absolutely not.
is she not licensed for the last 20 years? Is that true? I didn't
I
know that.
don't know,
Oh,
but it wouldn't
girl.
shock me either. Um, I don't look at her as a serious lawyer. I look at her as a clown with a law degree.
She just, to me, she's somebody who likes to get on camera. That's it. Like,
Listen, anytime you want to take her seriously about anything, if you have that urge, Duke
lacrosse.
Nothing else need be said.
Yeah, Duke lacrosse. That's it. Look it up. You can see she got sanctioned
twice in federal courts. One time for, I believe, making false and ridiculous statements, which should shock none of you if you read her Twitter.
He still says that she wasn't wrong. Like, if you bring that up to her, she's going to be like,
no, she'll tell you she received or got offers of millions of dollars, whatever.
Exactly.
She's got
a conspiracy theory about it.
She's general counsel of the Island of Misfit Toys. Just ignore her.
Yeah, everybody's getting paid anytime they're on the other side of Wendy Murphy. Everybody's getting paid. There's all this money coming in everywhere. Kathy says, could they have discussed verdict slipped at all during closing? I think that would have been a good idea. Or is that just too confusing? It's not really what a closing's about, right?
Confusing. I don't think I'd want to get into that. And I also think at some point the judge would say, this is the province of the court. This is legal stuff. I don't want you doing this. And at that time, you would have had a judge say, I'm not allowing that. I'll handle this. No, I don't think the defense did anything wrong in not addressing that.
Well, yeah, it seems like that wouldn't be really. I mean, I think Jackson did a phenomenal closing.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. As far as like communicating with the jury and presence and delivery, he's the best I've ever seen.
I felt like it was another level. Like, it wasn't like the first trial. He did good, but this time, that closing was just. I was driving, and I was like, had to hear, like, you know what I mean? The goosebumps, like he was so good.
Well, I mean, I think it was a lot more reasonable doubt focused and logical in going back to their talking points. And yeah, I mean, I said this on Twitter. I thought it was an A+. It was great. Absolutely.
This is Microdots. He's got a question today. Microdots, we love you. You've been kicking butt, and you deserve. I don't know how many subs you have now, but it's an amazing amount. You deserve every one of them, dude. I saw him the other day, and I was so happy to see you, man. He says, hi, guys. If they want a snack or one needs to leave for the day, do they need a note? Literally any question goes to the judge.
Pretty much. Once they're deliberating, if they need to leave the room, I mean, they have a bathroom in the jury room, okay? Like, they don't need to leave. If they want to stop deliberating and somebody wants to leave or there's a problem, the answer is yes. They've got to tell the judge. And that's not a Norfolk County thing. That's an everywhere thing. The court doesn't want any outside influences on the jury. We don't want anything going on in the jury room. We don't want anyone coming back and saying something happened. You need transparency. So if something's going to go on outside the jury room, they have to notify the court. Absolutely.
So maybe there is some confusion about whether there is actually court on Friday. We need to look into this. Megan says, I understand, Mike, but multiple people who were at the courthouse confirmed no Thursday or Friday. It looks like we have conflicting statements, so we'll find out. I'll ask. We'll ask Nick Rocco. Nick Rocco will tell us in a second. Or
if they don't have a verdict on Wednesday and they're getting off Thursday, it better be real freaking important not to come on Friday. You don't give them 2 days off into the weekend and what amounts to a 4 or 5 day break in the middle of deliberations. That can't happen. So and again, I don't know what the issues are with the jury. I don't know what, if there's scheduling issues or this and that, but you are on the verge of a crisis if they get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off and come back Monday. That is not how a trial, when somebody's facing life in prison, should work, where the jury literally takes off 4 days. That's unheard of.
So
Unheard of.
maybe Nick Rocco or Kelly Reader in the chat, they could let us know if they know, because I'm sure they do know.
I would be
So find out.
stunned, absolutely stunned, if they got Friday off. That can't be the case.
Sue O'Connell is saying the tweet I saw said that they were off Thursday, they would be in court Friday. We'll definitely try to find out on that one.
19th is June 19th.
Yeah,
There's no reason for that to extend into Friday. So if they're off
exactly.
Friday, it's got to be a different reason. No, God, I don't do estates and wills.
Yeah, you don't do it, but does Richie, your buddy Rich does though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I do. I specialize in real estate law.
You do. No, you don't.
No, I don't.
That's Rich. That's your buddy Rich Vestine. He's pretty good at it.
That's the guy I would refer you to. Absolutely, he's good at it too.
He gets in. He's like making headlines doing that stuff, like title fraud. I've been following it. He's really good at that stuff.
Very good lawyer at that kind of stuff. No, I'm laughing about the whole real estate thing because
It is funny.
your addict friend.
That other guy.
I'm a real estate lawyer.
Like there'd be anything wrong with being a real estate lawyer? Like,
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I just laugh.
I'm envious of Rich Vestine. I would love to be Rich Vestine. He's got probably not as much stress as he just does real estate law. That's like, you think Kevin would be so happy to be a real estate lawyer. He'd be tooting his horn. I'm a real estate lawyer.
He'd probably be happy to be employed.
Yes.
In any capacity.
Or self-employed. I mean, some attorneys they're just their own business.
Any 10 drunks,
Yeah. Anything but doing the YouTube show from the attic. Like, you imagine what's he gonna do? What are these folks gonna do when in a month now? Like if Karen Reed is not guilty, what's Kevin gonna do?
I don't know. And honestly, I part of me feels sorry for him, part of me doesn't.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is a lot of these people are going to go away and go back from the rock from which they climbed under. I think a lot of them are going to hang on because they're going to stick around for the aid and stuff. But it'll be less. I mean, obviously, a lot of these people will just disappear. And the scary thing, or sad, not scary, the sad thing is there's probably a large percentage of these Twitter trolls who in real life, if you knew them personally, not as like Twitter because you think this about Karen and they think that, they're probably normal people and you probably could get along with them. Some of them.
Too. Yeah, not the Kevins, not the what's that guy, Notorious Rogue, who showed up today and had some issues apparently.
I don't know who that is, but
I mean, know him. You don't want to know him. He's the worst one. He's the racist, misogynist. Yeah, he's gotten several fights with people of color, like saying racist shit. Like Jen Altman looked it up, and apparently, like some high school kids beat him up last time.
Yeah.
They got some characters on their side. Yeah.
I think some of them will go away, but it's a cottage industry for some of these people. Maybe not the yellow cottage, but by the way, I was you'll get a kick out of this. I should have taken a picture, but I was driving. Over the weekend, I had to go to orientation for my daughter's summer camp, which is in Pennsylvania. So we're driving through and we're in like upper New Jersey between like Morristown and the Pennsylvania border. And there was some, shithole bar that was called the Yellow Cottage Inn. And if I had known it was there, I would have taken a picture and sent it to you. But
Did
and
your
on the way
daughter
home,
recognize it? Did she
no,
follow this stuff, or
no,
was it just like
no,
you laughed to yourself?
no. It was worth a chuckle going there, saying, "Is this where they get the? It's like this shithole place that's like held up on like rotting wood beams, and probably like the attic,
Hasn't
and
been painted in 30 years.
it's worth a chuckle." But it was literally called the Yellow Cottage Inn.
Oh man, don't tell
Funny.
him that. He'll be
This is it.
hitchhiking over
This
there,
is
get a
it.
picture in front of it.
The absolute upper northwest corner of New Jersey, which
We'll
is
send him
basically
there. Yeah,
in Pennsylvania.
nowhere, Bill.
It's it's New Jersey, and it's only, I don't know, 50 or 60 miles from New York City. But as far as New Jersey goes, it's like the middle of nowhere, right? I mean, it says, and there was the Yellow Cottage Inn. It was worth a chuckle.
You speaking of you mentioned your daughter. Yesterday was Father's Day. I saw your picture. People loved it. You had a good Father's Day yesterday?
Yeah, they took me to a nice dinner. Well, they took me like they paid for it, right? Yeah, we all went. Wife and kids went to a very, very nice dinner. It was a great time. I mean, it's the special moments in life, right? Those are, those days where your kids actually like you and they smile for the picture. That's great. Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully they like you later in life
No,
too.
I'm
I mean,
kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's
there's a
look.
few years they don't like you. It's true. Like there's
Well,
some kids it starts earlier, but some like those teen years they
no,
kind of
yeah. I mean, the oldest one is 15, so he's in that phase. But no, they like me, and we do stuff, and they're great. And it was, yeah, no, those are very special moments.
Amy writes, do you think AJ fighting back tears was legit or theatrics?
Real. I think if you understand how real lawyers are, and I mean, I've told you, since we first started, how much respect I have for Alan, how much I like him, how much I see similarities in thought process and style and technique. And I understand, and I probably even told you this, like kind of wired the same way, and I get it. And what I mean is he's all in on this, okay? And I totally believe it. He has dedicated his life across country, away from his family, which makes it even worse to this. And you may even remember this when the first trial became a hung jury. And some people were saying, oh, is he going to stick around or this or that? And I remember telling you, saying, if you think that there's like any chance whatsoever that this guy, the way he's wired and what he thinks is walking away from this, money or no money, there is, I'm sure I told you this, 0% chance he's not coming back to win this, okay? Because he believes in it. So, yeah, no, I think that was totally real. I think all of it was real because he believes in what he's doing. And that's such an asset for Karen to have somebody like that. And in fact, really have a bunch of lawyers like that, all of them.
Good question that I've been meaning to ask for a little while. I'm glad she posted it. She said, when all this is done, we may have asked you a little bit about this, but when this is done and over, will the impoundment order and certain documents evidence be lifted? And will Karen Reed and her attorneys be able to speak freely about what they know?
So the whole Massachusetts impoundment thing, you're asking the wrong person because there's no rules, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Everything can be impounded or not. It's not how it works where I come from. Things are sealed or not sealed, and there's a statute which says when and why it can be, and that's it. So as far as impoundment, to me, there's no rules. I don't know. As far as them speaking freely, the gag order will be lifted, and I would expect that a lot. I mean, if there's an acquittal, if that's what happens, I would expect that there's a lot of people that have a lot to say that would be really fascinating to listen to. And that includes Karen, her lawyers, her family, I mean, it'd be up to them whether they choose to do that or not. But I would expect there to be some incredible, heartfelt, passionate, yes, angry in some ways, but classy statements to be made by a lot of those people. And, to me, the people that I would most like to hear from are her parents because they've been put through the ringer. Now, don't kid yourself. I'd love to hear Alan and David, what they have to say. And, as you can tell, Karen's not bashful. So I'm sure she has a lot to say too. But I would rather hear the family, who for the most part has bit their tongue, for the most part,
They
about.
come here. I hope they come here. I would love to have a conversation with them, with Bederow. That would be amazing to have the four of us. That would be wild because
Well, I'm not. I'm not.
I know they love you. They told me they watch.
I'm,
They love
listen,
Bederow.
I'm not lobbying or advocating,
I
but
am.
I know you are, and I'm not against it. But I'm not lobbying or advocating. But what I will tell you is, her parents and family are the nicest people you'd ever meet in your life, and they've been through hell. They did nothing wrong, one way or the other. They did nothing wrong, and the shit that they've had to put up with and what they've listened to. If you know her parents, they are the nicest people you'll ever meet. You're both of them, Bill and Janet, the nicest people you've ever met in your life, and that's all I can say about that. They are literally. I couldn't say nicer things about them other than they are just wonderful people if you know them. And if you don't, trust me, they are.
No doubt about it. I love them. Janet also loves Mazza too. Mazza's another one. They love the Mazza.
Everybody has.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody loves Mazza. How can you not? I'm just seeing, making sure I'm not missing anything good here. Emma says, would it be advisable for them to speak before the civil cases?
Civil case is a joke. I think they'll speak after the criminal case, but that's on them, obviously. The civil case, I think, is a spiteful lawsuit. It's not well founded in law. It's undermined by a lot of their key witnesses who ought to be supportive of them. I understand why they did it. I don't fault them. I understand the O'Keefes are pissed off people. They want to blame someone. I just think they've been misled by people in power. And I've seen it in many murder cases in the past. And I probably told you this too. One sticks out in my mind. It always will. A Brooklyn Odyssey I went through where a family was led to believe a certain set of circumstances. They were the very nice people, but there's nothing you could ever say that would ever get them to think anything differently than the narrative that the police and prosecutors gave them. And, they fall in line. And I think that's probably what happened with the O'Keefes too, but I don't blame them. A lot of people have strong feelings about them. I think you ought to be nicer and maybe give them a wider berth. They're not perfect people. I know they've been criticized for a lot of things, and it is what it is. But even like last week, you saw Paul O'Keefe testify in a certain trial. He didn't want to. He fought it. He lost, and you know what he did? He came in, and in my view, I watched it.
He told the truth,
and he was credible. Yeah. And you know what? I applaud that. Didn't help the prosecution case.
I respect he told the truth too. I think that was big on him.
Never, I don't think he's a bad guy. I understand where he's coming from. I don't agree with his thought process, but I respect where he's coming from and what he's dealt with.
I feel bad too. I mean, they lost not just the brother,
they lost
family members. Yeah, mm-hmm. So been a lot of tragedy in that family. Of
course.
Lake noted, Lala noticed, says, Mark, remember you saying 0% chance AJ doesn't come back? That stuck with me so much. Love you both. Yeah, I can remember you saying that a lot, actually.
Never understood that. Once. You think he was walking away from a hung jury against Adam Lally on a case like that? No, I'm serious.
Any headlines? Yeah.
I mean, that's if you're wired a certain way, you're never walking away from something like that. Do you know how it must have sickened him to get a
No.
hung jury in that case? No chance. And he came back for free. So what do you want? Is that dedication or is that grifting? I mean, come on.
How hard is it for them being, or when you're in these situations where you're a defense attorney and you're waiting for a verdict? I mean, because for
Or
me, this is what that drives me crazy. I can't imagine with so much skin in the game being a defense attorney. How does it feel, or even as a prosecutor, waiting for that verdict to come in?
so
What do you do?
it's for all lawyers, including the prosecutor, including Brennan. Um, Trials are fun. They're stressful. Stuff's going on. When the case is what lawyers call in the can, that's just a colloquial term. The jury has it. That's the only part of a trial where an experienced trial lawyer wants to throw up and you're bored out of your mind. You're stressed. You're antsy. So right now is horrible for the lawyers, all of them, both sides. You can shit on Brennan all you want. He's going through the same thing that Alan and David and Bob are going through. It's horrible. You get, then they call you back. There's a note. There's a verdict. It goes on. It's just beyond stress. It's the only part that makes you want to throw up because you're powerless. There's literally nothing you can do with this. It's hope. It's entirely out of your hands. And when you're a lawyer, you're a control freak. You're usually used to influencing what happens. Yeah. And now it's completely out of your hands. 100%.
What drives me crazy is when there's nothing to do.
It's horrible.
You like if you're busy, you're not thinking about it. You know what I mean?
They're not busy. They're not doing anything. You can pretend you're doing other things. They're sitting there just stressed out of their minds, checking their phones, sitting down, walking around, sitting down, going here, going there. It's awful. And for like a day like today, where they didn't even have any notes, they had no reason to be called back. They literally had nothing to do from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. That's 7 hours of nothing. Now, the best thing they have is they have each other. There's a lot of lawyers. So there's like, there is, they can commiserate, which, makes it better than otherwise, but still they're going crazy. They're going, and I don't know, I haven't talked to them today, but I don't need to. They're going stir crazy. There's no other, it's impossible not to.
Not to.
It's the worst.
Do you think AJ would come back for a third time if he had to?
100%. I don't think it's going to come to that, but 100%. Of course.
Wells says, is there any way to view Dr. Rentschler's unedited PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, when the case is over, I mean, there's nothing restricting it. Again, they can share whatever they want to share, and I expect they will. I mean, I would expect that the lawyers, the client, the family have a lot to say because they've, for the most part, kept their mouth shut. They've been, as you know, the lawyers have been gagged. Karen hasn't, but even her words have been somewhat muted. But, you stick a microphone in her face if she gets acquitted and say, how do you feel about, after the 3 years of hell, how do you feel the way you've been treated? What do you think she's going to say? No comment? You think Bill Reed's going to say, I have nothing to say? You think Janet Reed's going to say, I don't want to talk? You think Alan Jackson isn't going to say? They're going to have a lot to say, I believe.
Let's see what Michael Easter has to say, too. He got excluded. I wonder if he'll have any... I don't know. I know nothing about him, honestly. I did email him. But it sounds like he's interested in speaking to media after this is over.
Listen, a lot of people who got excluded have strong opinions and a lot to say.
Mr. Bederow might have more to say on it.
I'm not gagged, right? That's obvious. Yep. Could have been. Could have been. They chose not to, so whatever.
Whatever. Um, we already kind of answered this. Hank's large. She said, "What do you think Bev would do on the guilty on the OUI charge? Would she be a cow or rule as a normal judge would?" Mark thinks she'll throw the book at her.
I'm not. I mean, I'm obviously not going to phrase it in those terms. I
Yeah.
think, um, judging on her, what I view as her apparent disdain for Karen and her lawyers and everything else, yeah, I think she'll jail her. I do. I think she would. Now, let's be clear. If this case ends up in a conviction for a misdemeanor operating under the influence, don't kid yourself. That is a 10,000% win for Karen Reed. Okay. There is no way to spin it. So when you, and this is a preemptive strike against the trolls if that happens, spinning that into a win, no. Okay. Now, I don't think she's going to get convicted of anything personally, but even if she were convicted of a misdemeanor, whether she got jail or not, um, they're trying to put you in prison for the rest of your life. You get convicted of a misdemeanor, that's a win. And by the way, that misdemeanor would have nothing to do with the crime that you were charged with.
They're telling me that Michael Easter was on Justice TV today, Justice Serve TV today. I'm wondering if he said anything about the case because I didn't think he could.
Well, if he's on, I assume he's not talking about, what he had for breakfast. So
Maybe he's talking about a different case. Who knows, right? I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't
I
know,
would
but
ask the audience, what was he talking about today? What did he have to say? Tell me what he had to say more than that he was on. I want to know what he had to say.
I'm going to assume he was saying how unjust it was to be kept off and how, um, how much he could have added because he could have.
I guess he can talk now that the testimony's over.
Yeah,
Oh, see, I should have hit him up. They got him before I did.
you can
I
still do
love
it.
it.
You can still
I
do
know
it.
I was snoozing, but I want to get it first. You know how it is. You want to get it first.
True.
That's awesome. I'm glad they got him. Actually, I like them too. Justice Served. They helped with the buffer zone too. I like them. They're good people. It's just funny. I thought I was going to have to wait till after the trial, and here he is. He was already on the show today. They say he's very handsome. All the
Like,
witnesses for the defense are handsome. I guess I don't know. They just. Uh, what is this? Do you know anything about this case
we're
that
getting
they're talking about? Commonwealth
law
versus
here.
Narrow.
Lessers can be retried if not necessary component. My understanding is if they hang on any of if they don't reach a guilty verdict on anything under count two and hang on some of it, that under Massachusetts law, which I believe is in violation of the United States Constitution, they can retry as high up that count as they can get. I think that's outrageous, but that's my understanding, as I heard explained through another person, according to a lawyer who I have incredible respect for her legal acumen. So, not having done the research myself, I have no reason to doubt that's the case.
Tonight, anything we didn't bring up that you wanted to discuss tonight?
No, it's the waiting game, right? You just have to wait it out. You should go to work, do your job. There's nothing you can do. Stressing isn't going to help or hurt. So let the process play out and, live your life. I mean, a lot of people are going crazy. I understand that they have so much invested in this, and I'm interested in this like everyone else too, for a lot of reasons, but it's out of your control. So just let it play out. And if you know lawyers or listen to lawyers on YouTube or whatever, it's not that weird what happened today. It's pretty normal, actually. So there's no reason to be concerned about anything. The fact that there was a bad experience in the first trial, the evidence is different, the jurors are different. You're only 5, 6, 7 hours into this. This is normal. It's not worth getting excited about. Not yet.
Maybe we'll be a little more excited if it gets to like we said, Wednesday afternoon, right? That would be
I
the
would be very concerned if you're not done Wednesday and there was an adjournment for Thursday. Friday cannot be a day off. That just strikes me as impossible. If that's the case, that's a disaster. On the other hand, if they're off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the likelihood that there would be a verdict or we quit on Wednesday, I think would be extraordinarily high. And that's not necessarily a good thing. You never want the jury being influenced by looking at the calendar when they have a job to do. But if they're going to hang or reach a verdict, knowing that there's 4 or 5 days off, this will end when I believe it will end Wednesday at the latest, one way or the other.
So Seth Froman says, do they have to request certain evidence, or is it all in the jury room? Are all the exhibits there, or do they have to request it?
No, I'd imagine they'd probably have to request some of it. I don't think they're sitting in there with boxes and boxes of
lights. Yeah.
evidence. Again, different courts do it differently, but I don't think, some cases there's not that much evidence and it's very easy to just say, give it to the jury. Case like this, there's so much evidence. I think it would be almost impossible to have all of it. And also a lot of it is computer based too. So I'm not sure exactly how they're doing that, but I would imagine there are certain things they might have to ask for if they want them, but they're entitled to it if it's in evidence.
How long do you think it really takes them to go through the entire multi-week case and kind of review all the exhibits and review everything to kind of get to what their verdict is, like as an individual? How long do you think a juror would actually need to spend on this case?
Well, I don't think they do review everything necessarily. I think it really depends on the conversation and where it goes. I mean, to me, the logical discussion, again, jurors can do it any way they want. So, we're not there. The logical discussion is there a reasonable doubt that she hit him or not? Because if she didn't, we're out of here, right? So it would seem to me that you'd be focused on that and go wherever that leads any individual juror. And of course, if there's a juror who says, well, I don't agree with you because of this, then you have to explore that. But I mean, I don't think that requires every single witness, every single exhibit. I don't think in the real world that's what juries do. Certainly not in a case that went over 30 days and has, thousands of pages of exhibits or whatever it is, hundreds. It really depends.
Kind of focusing on those jurors and trying to figure out their issues, kind of, and focusing on them, focusing on those issues within the evidence. And
yeah, I mean, again, it's just whatever they want to do. I mean, I think the judge tells them, don't do a straw poll, for example, which I don't agree with. I mean, I don't think you should be telling them one way or the other. I think you ought to let them do whatever it is they want to do and let it happen organically. The jury should decide how they want to do it. In theory, if they took a straw poll and said, yeah, let's take a straw poll on a car accident. And suppose it's like 10 people say, I don't think so, and 2 people do. It seems like such a natural starting point to say to the 2 jurors, say,
we're hanging, yeah.
Like, what's bothering you? What do you think?
What is it?
And then analyze that evidence and then see where it goes. What is it that makes you think that there's proof of that? And that can dictate. So I don't know why she would tell them anyway at all how they ought to deliberate. It ought to be organically as the fact finder decides. The judge should not be putting her finger in the pie of how they want to deliberate. I didn't like that at all, actually.
Anthony Clare says, any chance Mr. Bederow would give a go Pacers?
Absolutely. I hope they win. They certainly, took care of the Knicks as they were glad they did. And They're a good team. No one can hate the Indiana Pacers, right? There's no reason. Rick Carlisle is a world champion
Right.
Celtic, their coach. Aaron Nesmith was, a Celtic who didn't make it here, went to the Pacers. They've got some interesting players. I hope they win. Good fans. I hope they win. I don't like Oklahoma City. I find them tough to watch. They foul bait. They're kind of like a plastic team where I think the Pacers are on paper, they're not that good, but they're better than the sum of their parts. They're like a real team and well-coached team. And I hope they win. They deserve it.
Like Indiana for Larry Bird too.
That too. But I'd like to see the Pacers win. I hope they do. So go Pacers. How's that?
Go Pacers. Can the jury mark both not guilty and the guilty for the one charge they may think she's guilty of? Understand that one.
I don't. That is that like a tongue twister? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure I get that one either.
I don't understand that, to be honest with
you. Yeah, you'd have to restate that one. This is one though that I. Oh, I can't get it. It keeps moving. You guys are posting too many comments. It's hard to keep up with them. There was a question about the blood alcohol though. If I can get to it. Oh, of course I can't find it. Too many comments coming in. Here it is. Do you think the blood alcohol content was argued enough to undermine Karen's blood alcohol? Do you think the defense did a good job? I think is the point on that one from Laura.
Yeah, I don't think it was powerful evidence. It's not really a blood alcohol test. It's an extrapolated prediction and assumption based on certain facts, which may or may not be present. That's different than a classic blood alcohol test. You have to work on a formula, when the last time alcohol was consumed, and which we don't know. I think the problem for the OUI charge, if you will, are the videos of drinking alcohol from the bars, which is there, and the statements. She made a lot of statements. I drank alcohol. On the other hand, you have many, well, not many, in this case, 3 witnesses who were in strong position to observe Karen Reed around the time she would have been driving, none of whom said anything to even remotely believe that she was under the influence. Heather Maxson and Ryan Nagel, right? They saw her drive. She drove properly. She signaled. She wore a seatbelt. She drove the right way. And Kolakithis, a pharmacist, looked at her for an hour, face to face, no indication of any intoxication. I might have argued in summation. I mean, look, if I knew I was asking for DWI and all that, I think they could have argued in summation. There's no evidence at the scene that she was drunk. No police officer asked her to take a test. I think they should have asked that. There were no police officers who testified at the scene. I think I would have mentioned that. And I think I would have mentioned 2 other people who never said Karen Reed appeared intoxicated: Jennifer McCabe and Kerry Roberts. So I think in hindsight, if you were going to ask for the OUI charge, if there was any criticism I could give about the summation, it would be leaving all that on the table if that's what they were going to do.
Great question, Laura. Thank you for the question tonight. Good points, Mark. Definitely probably should have done more on that.
If you knew you were going to argue the OUI,
yep,
they didn't argue that great. That's true.
Rusty Bubbler says, anyone else feeling some deja vu? I am, because it's the same time of the season. It's hot again. It feels very like deja vu. I'm with Mark again.
Too early.
It feels like Ron. You saying too early?
It's too early, and juries are juries. They did this for 30 days. They heard all this evidence. They did all this stuff. They're talking through it. We don't know where they are. We don't know what they're thinking about. But in 2 days, if they haven't reached a verdict and they're up to 15, 20, 25 hours, yes, absolute deja vu. But, you can't expect a jury just because you're invested in this to say, oh, yeah, yeah, it's over. I mean, that's like these people who thought there'd be a verdict Friday. That, that, no way. I mean, I thought there could have been a verdict today. In fact, if you put a gun to my head, I would have predicted it would have been today. But on the other hand, we're not there. We don't know. So it's still very early in this process.
Predicted. I said probably Tuesday, but
Well,
it
you're.
could be
I think
Monday. Could be Monday. Could be Friday. I felt like it was going to be one of the first 3 days, but we'll see.
if you predicted Tuesday, I would say you're right in the wheelhouse. I mean, you're in great shape because there's been a lot of deliberation, but not that much, and you have a whole day tomorrow. If you were into betting and all that nonsense, I'd say you're right in the wheelhouse for Tuesday.
I was hoping for Friday. I got to be honest. I was telling everyone it's coming Friday.
Nah.
Just because I felt like if we just, I don't know, we had just good thoughts, we might influence positivity. I don't know.
No, it's too early.
That doesn't work like that. No,
No, too early.
too early. Well, let's hope it comes soon.
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't know how much more a lot of us can take. That's the issue.
Well, just remember when everybody says, I don't know how much more I can take, how do you think Karen and the lawyers and the family are feeling?
Exactly.
It's 1,000 times worse than whatever anyone who's talking about it is going through.
Totally.
You got to respect how they feel even more than how you do because it's worse for them.
Totally. No doubt about it. That's a good point. Everyone should keep that in mind. So we'll see what happens. I want to thank you so much again, Attorney Mark Bederow, for being here again, answering all our questions. I think a lot more people feel better when they hear from you. They're always asking. They're like, "Can we have Bederow? I'll feel better. I want to hear what he has to say." So
Well, if it's bad, I'll tell you that too. I'm just telling you the way I see it. I don't, I'm not here to sugarcoat it, but there's no reason to panic.
none. Yeah.
If it's bad, I'll tell you. I won't want to, but I will.
If it gets to Friday afternoon, well, that's when we know it's bad, right? I mean, that's the
That's
point.
bad.
We know it's probably a hung jury at that point.
If you're still talking about this on Friday and you want this to end in an acquittal, that's bad. Yeah, I would agree with you. But that's also Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. That's 3 full days away. That is a ton of time. Very unlikely. And besides, with Thursday off, I think you'll get a real fix. If they don't have a verdict tomorrow, Wednesday is when you'll start seeing the we don't want to do this anymore type of notes.
Hopefully we get that. I'm hoping Tuesday, Wednesday, please. It'll be nice tomorrow because I think I'm going to be there. So we'll see what happens.
Go
Attorney Mark
tomorrow.
Bederow, when are you coming back? Last question I want to ask you tonight. When are you coming back for Turtle Boy? Because everyone wants to know when you're coming back to Massachusetts.
Planning on later this week, but the court appearance got moved. So we had a court appearance actually, I think on Friday. So I would have come for that, and that was kicked over to July for scheduling purposes for all the parties. So I'm not coming out for the verdict or anything like that. I mean, I'm a practicing lawyer. I can't just come hang out for the sake of hanging.
But you're busy. You got responsibility.
I like to come out, but I can't just literally come hang out. You should go tomorrow. I think it's going to end tomorrow. And if it does end favorably, then, I would probably, schedule permitting, would love to come out and see some people for sure. But, we'll have to wait and see on that.
That will be good. I think it will help. If that happens, I think there'll be some parties too. It's going to be something, I think, where we'll see.
There's a lot of people I would really like to see if this works out well. I'm really hoping this works out well, and I'm also confident it will.
Just everyone keep positive and relax. And like Mark said, if you drink the wine, have a glass of wine. So whatever you need, get a massage. What I did yesterday, you know what I did, Mark, to make sure I would have a good week. I just bought every single food thing I wanted at Market Basket. I just like I'm
Exactly.
getting the best steaks. I'm getting the I got some
Hey,
haddock. I got some
that's
shrimp. I got everything. Anything I wanted, I was like, I'm getting it
I,
all.
I love it.
Delmonico, I got it all. It just yeah.
Good, clean, healthy food, and have a glass. I like to have a glass of wine with dinner every night, or with when I'm eating like that. And that was my joke earlier. Just relax, have a glass of wine, and it's fine. Jury's
Yeah.
deliberating. It's summer. Enjoy yourself. Have a good steak. Have a good
Find
glass
something
of
to
wine.
enjoy. Yeah,
Yeah.
watch a good movie for whatever you
Watch-
want to do. Someone said not Shaw's. No, I'm a Market Basket guy.
No, no.
It's funny. I used to work. It's kind of not good that I'm a Market Basket guy because when I was a kid, I worked at Shaw's. There was a Market Basket and Shaw's right next to each other, and there was like the kids in the neighborhood would like fight over who worked where. And but now I'm a Market Basket guy. I don't know.
Market Basket wasn't really a thing when I lived there. I think there was like one or two. It was all Stop and Shop and Shaw's and Star Market, and they had this one place in Framingham. The Farm Stand was another one. Other than that, we didn't really have Market Basket, and
Yeah, it was fun.
There was a
We
Roach
used
Brothers Natick. I remember that too. But other
Yeah,
than that,
Roach Brothers. Yeah, it's funny because Market Basket used to be like a more like north of Boston, like North Shore, New Hampshire, but now it's creeped. You're right. It's like gone into like more of the middle of Massachusetts, and I imagine there's probably one in Framingham now.
they're probably. I mean, the Stop and Shop we used to go to when I was a kid is still there on Route 9 in Framingham. It's like literally still there. So it's much bigger than it was, but we were always Stop and Shop people, and they're still going, obviously. And as we know, Stop and Shop got incredible publicity in this Karen Reed saga, right? Because when in doubt and there's no evidence bags, it's time to Stop and Shop. I mean, it was great.
Phenomenal for them.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Hopefully, Market Basket doesn't have any stoppages. That there's some little grumblings happen about who running it, and it's funny because at one point, Stop and Shop was on strike a couple years ago too. So there's been some stoppages of our favorite supermarkets. Hopefully, everything goes good with Market Basket because there's grumblings again over there. We'll see.
We
But
have uh, we have Wegmans in New York, New
Wegman,
Jersey, and Wegmans is very good. I
I
bet
heard
they
is that
now
high end? Is that high end? That's like a good one, right?
and they have it in Chestnut Hill. They had one in the Natick Mall. They had a huge Wegmans in the Natick Mall. Didn't work. It lasted like a year. It was incredible. Didn't work, but I know they definitely. I've been to the one in Chestnut Hill as well. I think they might have one or two other ones in Massachusetts, but they've got a few in Manhattan. They've got them in New Jersey. They're actually in upstate New York. The first time I ever saw Wegmans is when I was in Syracuse at law school. But Wegmans is very nice. That's where my water comes from. Everyone's always asking about Wegmans Wonder Water. See?
I see that comment come up all the time about your water. And Wegmans has like great bakery too, right?
Everything. They have like little incredible fresh made. You can get everything. You can eat there if you wanted. Very, very good. Yeah, I
My
think they
girlfriend
have
got a
one
cake
in
from there.
Dedham or Canton
She got
too.
a cake. One of the kids got a cake from there, and my girlfriend's like, "We need to find out where they got this cake." It was Wegmans.
Wegmans is good. It is.
I'm pretty sure she drove over to that Wegmans, and it's pretty far actually to get the cake. We're funny. We love our food here. I
Yep.
can tell Bederow does too. Thank you so much for being here and talking about sports and food and Karen Reed. And thank you so much. And we'll catch up again with you real
Yep.
soon.
Okay. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Have a great week.
Okay.
And that was attorney Mark Bederow. Always an honor to have him here on the show. I want to thank everybody who's been watching. I want to thank our chat. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, she says thank you, Mark. Sarah's one of our great mods here. I also saw Jen O earlier, one of our other ladies in the chat. And I think I saw M. Oh, there she is. MJ's here tonight. I love M. So I want to thank our ladies in the chat, Jen O, Sarah and Shock and Horror, Stephanie, MJ, and Scott McGinnis. I think I got all five of them. We got five are great. Yes, Wegmans is good but expensive. I gotta get over there again. That cake was good. My girlfriend and I are like bakery queen. Like we just she pretends she doesn't like the baked goods, but she's just as bad as I am. Yeah, I don't know if you folks have ever gone over to Whole Foods. They got this cake. It's the strawberry shortcake cake. It's like I don't know. It's pretty expensive. I just every couple of weeks I go over there and buy it. I can't help myself. It's so good. Otherwise, I don't go to Whole Foods because I call it whole paycheck. But I get a few little things like that. I definitely do splurge on food. I just want to get to the super chats. I want to thank everyone who super chatted tonight. Thank you, Jen O. She says hi, Mark and Mike. She's one of our moderators. She's been a member for 13 months as well. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate Jen. She's a great moderator and very supportive of me as well. Happy Annie. She also became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much for becoming a new YouTube member here. Also, the nasty Greek votes at 99 cents tonight with a super sticker. Thank you. Stephanie, also another YouTube member, new YouTube member. We're getting a lot of them tonight. Stephanie also gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships. Wow. Thank you, Stephanie. And Kat Randall, she became a YouTube member tonight as well. Thank you, Kat Randall. And Stephanie gifted 5 more Young Jerks memberships. Thank you, Stephanie. You're awesome. Joshua Mundell said 499. Says, Mr. Bederow, what are your thoughts on Boston trading Devers for 3 reliefs and an outfielder? It's funny because I got to say, Joshua, we don't take money to ask Bederow questions, but that question came up in the chat. Maybe you were the one that asked it. I'm not sure, but we did actually ask that question for free. So next time, if you want to ask a question to Bederow when he's on here, just post it in the chat. You don't have to pay for it. But that was answered. If you didn't hear it, just hit rewind and you'll hear Mr. Bederow's answer on that. He's not happy. He's not happy about Devers leaving. Not happy about the Red Sox in general. It's just like his favorite team. Uh, Divine Stone says while judges can appoint the 4-person, it's more typical for the jurors themselves to elect their leader. Not in Bev's court. Kunti Bev says Bev is an utter disgrace. Been a member for 2 months. Thank you so much. April May not says, are they dragging this out because of money? Who, the jurors? The jurors aren't getting paid crap. I mean, I don't know. You think a juror's dragging it out for the per diem a day? I don't even know what it is. It's probably $50 or something. I don't think so. I mean, if anyone had an incentive to drag the trial out, it was Hank Brennan. Think about how much money he was billing. No, I don't think they're dragging it out because of money. Hey, it's me, sent 9.99 and said Indiana girl here. Thought the Raffy Dever thing was about Helena Rafferty and Kelly Deaver. I needed a life. LOL. I know, right? That's funny. That is funny because there some crossover between the sports world, the sports names, and the trial names. I'm sorry if we confuse people. We were talking about the Boston Red Sox trade that came up this week. I know some people don't like when we do the sports talk. It was nice. It's just a couple minutes. Nice to see, other things that Bederow is interested in, which is sports. He also likes TV shows and movies as well. And food. Food's a big one. We talked about that. True Crime Kangaroo sent Australian $5. Said, hi, Mike and Mark. I made visuals for your show to discuss the verdict slip outcomes I sent to you on Facebook and email Mr. Bederow, Persistent Lily. I'll have to check that out. Thank you, True Crime Kangaroo. I'm just seeing this now. I'll definitely check that out when we get off the air here. Thank you so much, True Crime Kangaroo. Peppermint at 9.99 said, "What happens?" Let me just put that large so I can see it a little better. What happened to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? There are 10 million motions and a ton of information suppressed. It's not justice. I have to agree with that. I mean, justice will be a not guilty verdict. Let's just hope that that's what we're going to see, right, Peppermint? In the end, beyond all the other BS, let's just hope the jury says, you know what, none of that other stuff matters. Not guilty. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. Thank you, Stephanie. She's another moderator here. She's been a member for 14 months. She says, I can't wait to trade my FKR sticker to Karen is free. I know, right? I can't wait till it's we freed Karen Reed, right? I mean, I think that might be. I've never done any Karen Reed merchandise or shirts or anything like that. But I think after this is done, I think that might be the Young Jerk shirt we do. We freed Karen Reed. I mean, that's it, right? Let's hope so. Melissa, member for 14 months, says we appreciate you and your platform, Mike. Free Karen Reed. Thank you so much, Melissa. It's awesome to see so many of you now have been members for over a year here. That's thank you so. I can't even. I don't know what to say. Thank you. Laura says Mark Tempe was 114 today. Ooh, that's a lot of temperature, Laura. Creative gal sent a super sticker for $1.99. Thank you so much, creative gal. And Jasmine sent 11.99. I think that's a euro. Said the first trial focused on a possible cover up. The same officers which testified were involved in the Sandra Birchmore case. Could there be? Could that be the reason for everything? I don't know if that's the reason for everything. I don't know if there's that much crossover. I mean, there is a little bit of crossover, but I think it just shows the pattern. With the DA's office, I think the biggest crossover is in the DA's office, in the Mass State Police to a degree as well. Mizzy has been a guest on the show. She definitely can talk more about that kind of crossover. But I think the big thing, it just those both cases, the Karen Reed and the Sandra Birchmore, show the culture that there's a culture of you cover me, I cover you, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Cover ups happen. I think that's it. And the DA's office is not above that. I think that's really what you could take from both of those is that there's a culture that's not healthy. Texas Tooth Fairy sent 9.99 says Michael Goodrich is the best real estate attorney located in Texas, cited in many cases. I bet he has a great life too. I bet he's doing very well for himself. Much better than people who criticize real estate attorneys. Susie Jimenez sent 199 said she would 100% throw the book at her. I didn't believe that until I talked to Mark tonight. Talking to Mark, I realized it's possible. You would think that the judge would keep out all the stuff from the trial in terms of you were found not guilty if she's found not guilty of those other charges, but to use them against her for an OUI, that is scary. That is very scary. I hope not. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm just praying that Karen's found innocent on everything. Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you, Richard Lowe's, who sent $2. Says why was Mark not allowed to be on the defense team? Because the judge is a jerk. I mean, that's it. Not a JURK, a JERK. And she just Brennan said he wasn't going to object. He didn't object to it in writing, and he said, "I'm not objecting, but now I'm going to object," which he did. I mean, it was ridiculous. And basically, Brennan was trying to say that there was a potential conflict because Mark Bederow is representing Aiden Carney, Turtle Boy, and he suggested there could be a potential future conflict between Aiden and Karen, which there isn't. And he also said something to indicate that he felt like Mark Bederow might share information from one case to the other. And to do shady shit. He basically said that Mark might do shady shit, which was ridiculous. I know Mark Bederow. He's not going to do anything shady for anybody, you know? So and the most infuriating thing was what Mark said today, mentioned it today too, is that the judge didn't even have the courtesy to have a meeting with him. That's all he was requesting. Just come, just talk to me. Just she wouldn't even do that. She wouldn't even give the courtesy. So it was ridiculous. There's no way he should not have been allowed to represent Karen Reed, honestly. And it hurt her. I think that hurt her. A lot of us do. All right, I think I got all the super chats. I think I'm done. Hopefully, let me just. Okay, a couple more came in. Teresa Brock says Market Basket was Demoulas. I just moved from Ashland to South Carolina. Yes, it was Demoulas. It's funny because it was weird too. At one point, like in Seabrook, New Hampshire, there was two Market Baskets. I think there's still two Market Baskets in Seabrook, but one was a Demoulas and one was a Market Basket, and they were owned by the same company. I was like, why do they have different names? There's been a lot of stuff going on with the family, the Demoulas family, and them fighting over who controls the company. And so, yeah, it used to be Demoulas, and then they just went with a Market Basket name. And you're so right. Back in the day when I was working at Shaw's as a young high school kid or junior high kid or whatever I was, I the supermarket, that the new supermarket that opened up next door, it wasn't Market Basket, it was Demoulas. You're right. Eventually that became Market Basket. Same company. And one more from Jasmine. She just followed up with 11.99 pounds, I believe that, or no, euros. She said there is more. Sandra Birchmore lives in Canton, and the same officers were investigating. Melanie Little talked about it. Yeah, we've talked about it too many times. So, I mean, there is some crossover in terms of the town of Canton, but it's not exactly the same people. Like Proctor was not heavily involved in the Sandra Birchmore thing. But the biggest thing is, like you said, it happened in Canton. You also have D.A. Morrissey. The biggest common denominator between Sandra and Karen Reed is Michael Morrissey, and the fact that Michael Morrissey seems to have covered up things. That's my opinion. I can't prove it, but I believe that Michael Morrissey covered up things for police officers, and I think he's done this before, and I think that's the common denominator. So there is some crossover, definitely. We'll see what happens. That's going to be interesting. A federal case to see what happens with you know well, the whole Sandra Birchmore thing. It's going to be interesting to see whether Matthew Farwell rolls over on anyone, if there's anything that he can kind of trade, because it looks like he's going to be looking at the death penalty, and maybe he wants to get life in prison instead. I don't know. It's been a lot of silence on that, and also like Robert Devine, the guy who is in charge of the high school, his post commission hearings to look at his certification, all of a sudden they've gone not public. They're holding private meetings. So there's a lot that we're waiting to see on that one. We'll see what happens. Like, I'm not sure when I'm going to be back. I'm definitely going to be like we did earlier today. We're going to stream in the morning from court, watch the fan all day, see if anything happens. Sometime in the afternoon, I'm going to try to jump in the car and drive over to Dedham. So I'll probably do a little live broadcast from over there tomorrow afternoon. And then I really don't know about the rest of the week. I'm kind of just keeping it up in the air and see what happens. Trying to be flexible for this verdict. All right. I want to thank Angela, who sent $2 on Venmo tonight. She said, "Love your channel." Thank you so much, Angela. Angela A. Also, Brian sent $5 on the Venmo. He said, Brian Z. Brian Z sent $5 and said, "Can you give me a shout out to Kevy and Mara? Huge fans. They watch every night." Hi, Kevy and Mara. Thank you so much for watching me every night. And thank you, Brian Z, for sending the $5. Definitely giving a shout out to Kevy and Mara. Thank you for watching us all the time, every night, apparently. I also want to thank Paula K. She said $5 the other night. I didn't get to thank her with the show with Nan. She said, "I wonder if they will point out the woman with ponytail in the Sally Port video as Dever. Great show with Nan." I don't think they ever did. That's one question I wish they would have asked her, actually. I wish they would have asked her. Is that you or is that Helena Rafferty? Because I think it was either one of them. So I agree. I think Paula, I don't think they ever brought it up, but I wish that had been a question they asked. Also, Colleen K. I'm not sure if I thanked her the other night. She sent $25 and said I watch your YouTube shows. Dog mom of three here. Your guests are great. Hope your court stuff is going your way. I hope so too, Colleen. I'm not sure about that. I'm feeling pretty good about my own court stuff, but we'll see what happens. No updates yet. Karen Jean said 292 and said, "Great work." That was a few nights ago as well. And Kathy R, who I believe is kind of a neighbor of mine on the North Shore. She said, "Great coverage of the Free Karen Reed case, Mike." And that was the other night as well. I didn't get to thank her. Sometimes I forget to read the Venmos at the other night. So I'm catching up right now, making sure I get everyone. William B also said $50 the other night and said, "Thanks, watch you the most." I think I may have read that one. I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure it's a $50 one. Thank you so much. And I think that's it. Let me look at the Cash App real quick. Ah, Debbie M. She's the big. I'm gonna call Debbie the whale tonight. She said $50. She's the biggest contributor on the Venmo Cash App tonight. Debbie M says, "For your support of Karen Reed, thank you. You're great. Thank you so much, Debbie M. You're amazing. Very much appreciated on the Cash App." On Friday, I missed some people as well while I was live streaming that day on the Cash App. Ashley H said $50 on the Cash App. She said, "Thank you for all your coverage of the trial." Thank you so much, Ashley. That is much appreciated. You're amazing. Lana also sent $10 on Thursday. She said for the Turtle Boy live stream, she sent $10. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I think that's it. I got everyone. I want to thank everyone who's been watching and donating and asking great questions and sharing all the content and watching. The biggest thing is watching. The fact that you come and watch. Brenda asks, she's a regular viewer. She says, "Where is Higgins?" I have no idea. It's a good question. We never saw Higgins this time. That's the thing I'm saddest about. I wanted to see Matt McCabe. I wanted to see Brian Higgins. I want to see Michael Proctor. And obviously, I would love to see Chris. The rest of the Alberts. Brian Albert on the stand. There's so many we're missing, but Brian Higgins, that would have been the biggest one, I think. Brian Higgins, I wish they had brought him on the stand, but I get why they didn't. All right, everyone, I'll see you tomorrow. Like Bederow says, if you drink wine, have a glass of wine tonight and just chill out. Don't overdo it. Don't drink like 7 glasses. Just a little bit. Just take the edge off. If you enjoy the food, go enjoy the food. If you want to go watch the playoff games, whatever you need to do, find a way to relax. Yeah, someone said, "Bye, Mike. No booze." I don't do the booze either. I like the taste of some drinks. Like I love the margarita. I love the taste of margarita. But I just, yeah, I'm not a big drinker myself, so I get it, Darcy. Believe me. Just do whatever you need to do to relax. Is what I'm saying. I like Bianca last night. She's talking about the deep breathing, how that relaxes people. That's also another good way. That's a healthy way. You can always just Google that on YouTube and find some breathing exercises. That's what I do. Try to get healthy. All right. I'll see you tomorrow morning. We'll see you tomorrow with the fan circling tomorrow morning. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much, Mark Bederow, attorney Mark Bederow. Follow him at Bederow Law on Twitter X if you're not already doing that. And if you have any legal questions, especially in the state of New York, you can always hit him up at betterowlaw.com. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone. Peace out, relax, deep breaths, deep breathing, and just listen to what Bederow said. It's not unusual that it takes a few days, especially when you have so many weeks of testimony. No stress. No stress until at least Wednesday afternoon. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you soon.